All right.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Bhangra podcast. I'm here with Howie. Howie, say hello to everybody.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
You're so energetic, man.
All right. What's going on, guys?
There we go. So Howie's from AEG, ex-captain of Michigan Bhangra team. And we're here to talk to you guys today about how to make an excellent audition video. And I should really preface this by saying, excellent, and I'm just using the word excellent because we've made audition tapes that have got us into competitions, and I know that, teams are asking for, hey, how do we make an audition video and what to do and stuff like that. And that's, as part of the podcast, that's one of the biggest concerns and feedback that we've gotten is like, this is what we want to hear about. So we brought Howie in, so we will get to it and we're going to talk about it. But first I want to cut to a podcast that we released very early on with the co-founder and organizer of Nutsty Cleveland. His name is Akash Menon, and we got into a little bit of what an organizer looks for from an audition tape. So we're going to roll that clip right now. What kind of things did you look for when you guys are selecting the lineup when it comes to, what teams did with their audition tape, what you like, what you didn't like?
First things first, please use a nice 1080p min camera. Can't tell you how many times we open up a video, and see a fuzzy picture where you can't really see anything or it's just bad quality. That obviously already turns us off because, you haven't taken the time to show us that you care enough to record a nice video for a competition that you were spending money to apply to. So keep that in mind first. But as far as what we look for, what we do is we base our rubric off of last year's competition rubric. So while I'm the only one on our board that is involved in the current Bhangra circuit, and I'm the only one with more Bhangra experience, I guess, we still know enough about the dance form to, have an idea of what's going on. And we look for cleanliness, synchronization, and execution. It's pretty obvious which teams sit there and clean before an audition video and which teams just record an audition video. We really look for people that spend the time and actually put effort into it. I can't tell you how many videos we've gotten of, teams recording a random practice in a gym or something. And, we're just sitting here did they really send this to us? Is this what they want us to judge compared against other teams who clearly it's been, they've spent hours of practice on or hours of work to put in that they put into it.
Definitely take that all to heart, guys. He does exactly what he says he does. Whenever I have talked to him in the past, he really doesn't pay attention to the Bhangra circuit. A lot of organizers don't. Some do, obviously, but the basics are the basics. Make a good tape, and Howie and I will get into it. Howie, one thing that I know from personal experience is whenever I was a dancer, not a captain, one of the hardest things about making an audition tape was the process of, we're prepping, the pressure's starting to build a little bit, and then boom, we're recording, the camera's on, and just everybody starts making it. Not the same person over and over again, but just mistakes on mistakes on mistakes. And we were sitting there for, 3 hours not 3 hours, but a long time trying to record a tape. What methods or strategies did you implement with Michigan, with AEG, when you guys are making a tape to make sure that dancers, don't fall into that trap of, oh my God, the record button is on, the red light's on, we're taping, and then mistakes start happening?
For me personally, when I did it with MBT back in 2014, 2015, the come up, you can say, is that we would just record every practice. And it's almost like, oh, we don't know which one we're going to use, right? But you see, when you record every practice, you could always play it off to your teammates as, okay, so this is a tape that we're going to have. We're just going to use it as our own reference. But, whenever we do record, we should be going all out. We're trying to hit all our angles, make no mistakes. And when you present it to your dancers in that manner, then it becomes, oh, I gotta dance. I guess the captains just really want to see this tape that comes together and see how we're doing, what our current progress is. So I really sell that idea to certain people. And then from there, usually you're taking a practice tape, right? And it's funny because some of the tapes that I have used in the past did come from when I told my dancers that, I'm not recording this for a specific comp or something of that nature, but we're just using this for our own practice reference. But we always need to go all out for every tape that we put out together, rather than sometimes having to be more direct, because certain people, when they first join a team and they get put on the spot for, we need to record this audition tape to be flawless, you could really understand the pressure of why they would mess up at certain segments, because they're not used to that pressure just yet. So I would highly suggest for any team, especially when applying to comps, that you should record every single practice, the run through at the end of whichever segments it may be, because according to comp, some of them say 3 minutes straight, and others allow you to edit the tape, which can work to your advantage at the end of the day.
100%. I think the biggest thing that has worked for us is, especially when we had the ability to cut the tape, is to be able to just do 3 run-throughs of the same segment, and have three tapes of that segment to choose from, if that makes sense. So it took a bit of the pressure off to, perfectly execute and stuff like that. And guys, we will link some example audition tapes from our teams that we did with them, so you guys can see what our tapes did look like. I remember back in the day when I danced for Steel City Bhangra, we applied to Bhangra Blowout, and that was a time, I don't know what the blowout process is, Howie, maybe you can educate me, but back then in 2012, we had to, this was a requirement by Blowout, is that we had to take a continuous tape, and at the end of the tape, you couldn't cut the camera. We had to walk up to the camera and say our name and our year.
That sounds tough.
Dude, it was so we did a 3.5, 4 minute tape just straight, right? And then at the end of it, we paused, we held our pose, and then we formed a single file line, then walked up to the camera, and I was like, Sid Pandit, senior, and I'd walk away, and then someone behind me would be like, say their name, sophomore, or whatever, right? All 12 of them.
My name is Preeti.
Exactly. Just out of breath. I don't get that. But in a situation like that, it was very difficult to remove pressure. But it's just one of those situations where the biggest thing that worked for us is that it was also at a point in time where we had done so many run-throughs. I think it's because we practiced so much of those segments that there was also a little bit less pressure, because it's not like we just learned it and then have to tape it. You know what I mean? We'd done the routine, we practiced it for a while, and I think that would be the biggest thing from me is you really got to practice your tapes. Or whatever you're going to put on camera, you got to practice it a lot. And, I like the idea that how that you suggested of just recording every single practice and you'll get a good tape, right? But in the situation, let me ask you this. I'm going to paint a picture for you. Let's say deadline is in 3 days and you really don't have a good video yet. What do you tell your team?
That this whole entire practice that's coming up, we're not going to leave this room until we get a tape done.
Damn.
And that's that was always the mentality we had, right? It was, first semester, whatever it may be, for whether it was AEG for me or whether it was MBT for me, we would dedicate one whole practice, a 3 to 4 hour session, and it goes, the segments well enough, formations well enough. We're going to start with our first run through. We're not going to clean it because you clean it so well at this point that we're just going to keep going until we get a perfect tape. What we mean by perfect tape, meaning that as soon as one person screws up the tape, you yell, stop.
Fact.
Whoever does. You have to be honest with yourself. Don't be like, maybe I got away with it. I didn't really look like I was squatting. No, you screwed it up for everybody. Because, this dance takes a lot of effort and exhaustion. But you have to, set that tone that everybody is responsible for themselves by the time of it, and that you will not leave this room until we get that perfect tape, whether it could take us 15 minutes or it could take you the next 3.5 hours, depending on how well the team comes together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember one of the first tapes I ever did, it literally took us all day. We started dancing at 12 o'clock and we weren't done until 8. And part of it was because we learned the second half of it that same day. But it did take a while, but that was the thing. We weren't leaving until it was done. And I think that the best tapes we ever made were ones where we had at least, we learned everything in one practice, had at least 1 or 2 practices before we actually got to the day of taping. You know,
Exactly.
and at that point, that's when the team is in the zone. They have the muscle memories there, and now it's just show up and tape. You know, and I think it does do a lot for a team. I think that it does strengthen your dancers a little more. I don't know what the word exactly I'm looking for. I want to say experience, right? Because it adds a bit of a pressure situation. You know, and that's not a comp, obviously, but you know, it does build that little bit of a situation for dancers to learn from. You know. What's one of the funniest things that ever happened with you in an audition tape?
I mean, like you get like the basic stuff, like, you know, like, oh wow, somebody farted. I got to be serious though, because, you know, like the person next to me just, you know, ripped one. Like, oh man, like
I have a really funny story about that.
Right? I don't know if you call this funny, but like I've had tapes where like we went through the whole thing and somebody like would try to be slick, and they're like, everyone, oh yeah, nobody fucked up, right? And I was like, yeah, no one fucked up. Like, all right, we're gonna go, and you go home, and then you watch the video, like, somebody definitely fucked up. like, like at first, like you laugh, you're like, oh, this is great, but then at the same time, like, dude, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, we gotta do this all again, man. What the hell?
Watch the tapes before you go home, you know.
Yeah, there's one. It was for a Motor City tape. In the first segment, we were going around in a circle, and one of the guys, and this is like the beat 12, right? We was just in the beginning, thank God. But someone farted, and this kid, you know, he started lifting, like he's really into it. So he's eating a lot more protein powder, all this stuff, right? So you know those guys that can drop some bombs all of a sudden, right? And all of a sudden, you know, he farts, and then all of us, because we're going in a circle, had to go through the spot that he farted in, and everybody's smile just got real, like everybody knew, right? So everybody's smile got bigger and bigger and bigger. But then I think it was Umar was like, dude, I can't do it, and he just like stopped dancing. He like ran away because he couldn't take the smell anymore. Oh, it was good. And all like the person recording had no idea what happened. They just had no idea what happened. They're like, what's going on? Why did Umar leave? They were just dying for about 5 minutes. We'd wait for the smell to dissipate.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
good times. And now a quick message from one of our sponsors. 00 Threads is a leading provider of customized apparel. Having served over 100 dance competitions and teams since its inception, 00 Threads ensures an easy ordering process and seamless delivery of everything ranging from t-shirts to snapbacks. Mention the Bhangra podcast while ordering, and 00 Threads will provide a discounted rate. Visit 00 Threads, that's the word double, the letter O, threads.com for more information. And now back to the Bhangra podcast. Another tip that I had was we always made an attempt to make sure, like when we were a co-ed, whenever I danced for Steel City, we would get into our triple Jodi stuff, right? And we would make sure that the 4 people that were your own Jodi wore the same thing, right? So like me and my Jodi wore a black shirt, white shorts, and our same color would be wearing like a white shirt, black shorts, or something, or all 4 of us would wear the same thing, something so that it was easily identifiable, like who the Jodis were. And so like formations like came out more with that. When you're all wearing random clothes, sometimes like the formations don't pop out as much. In more recent times, we just put on vests, you know, and just dance with our vests on. Good time.
You know what also really helps with audition videos? If you literally just bring in like random groups of people that just like come and watch you. Like bring in the fusion team that practices here and there. And then you bring them in. It's like an open viewing thing, right? Mm-hmm. That you guys do.
Yeah, we do.
And I guarantee all your dancers dance that much harder, right? Mm-hmm. And that they want to show their friends, like, oh, look at me, I dance really hard. And then it's a bomb-ass video, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I would do. Like, that's what I did. And it definitely works, especially like in collegiate.
Yeah,
have your buddies come that one night when you do record. And then everyone's going, you know, that much harder, and your video comes out that much better. People aren't making mistakes. Because it actually does, you know, inflate certain people's egos. It also inflates, you know, the whole team morale that somebody's watching me, I can't fuck up, you know?
Yep, 100%. Another thing, like for us, we practice in like this big hall, right? And it's just a public area, people walking through all the time. We always, and for everybody else out there that doesn't practice in a dance studio, or you need to go somewhere else to make a tape, we always have some friends come through and like stand at the sides, not in camera view, but just in case that are people walking through the camera. You want to make this tape look as professional as possible, right? So we have people standing on the sides or wherever there could be the possibility of someone walking through, and we have that person say to whoever it is trying to walk through, like, hey, just please wait a couple minutes. These guys are recording for an audition video for a competition. So just please hold up for like a couple minutes. And never had any issues with it, but like in the early going, some of our videos had some like random people just walk through. Some of them would stop and watch. They're just standing in the back of the tape. Some random black guy just watching the team. And it would, people would start laughing. People get messed up by it. And it definitely helped to reduce the distraction and stuff. But there's definitely some like videos that we have of just like some random people walking through, stopping just in plain view of the camera, just like watching like in amazement of like what's going on.
I agree. I think the biggest struggle is just getting that perfect tape, because you make that one perfect tape, you are good to go almost for the rest of the year, because you have that one tape. A tape is only good for 1 year.
Yep.
Moving forward. And then the next year you got to record it again, because you get dancer turnover, especially in collegiate circuit, even all guys circuit too, right? Like there's dancer turnover. You lose somebody because they don't want to dance anymore, whatever it may be, right? So your audition tape is only good for 1 year. So, but you get that perfect tape for that 1 year, you're good to go. Mm-hmm. That tape that's going to go to Surgeons, it's going to go to Blowout, it's going to go to Berg, it's going to go to BBC. And the funny thing is that, I highly suggest the teams is apply everywhere. Like everywhere. Like be surprised, especially like the upcoming teams. You take this tape, you send it everywhere. Like, yeah, maybe some of the comps you expected to get into, you don't get into. And then also the comps that like you're just like on a whim, right? Like just throw it in, like, oh, maybe this will get me in somewhere. And it actually works out. Because there were times where I sent in an audition video. I'll give an example with MBT. Like we sent an audition video to BBC back in 2015 just on a whim, right? But it was a very solid tape, and we were still like an upcoming collegiate team, like that. Like people were like, oh, like they're decent, they're not bad, and we sent one in also to some a really small comp. I forgot which one, but it was a very tiny comp, right? And we got waitlisted there, but somehow we got into BBC. And nice. It was crazy. Snap, we got into BBC. Like we didn't expect to get into BBC. Like, oh, maybe we'll get into BBC, but we got into BBC.
There was a point in time, man, where we got into zero comps, right? Like, when we were trying to break into the circuit, we applied everywhere. Everywhere would deny us. That was a struggle, but the reality of it was is that we needed to apply everywhere to see where we'd get in, And then we would always get at least 1 or 2 comps a year, and then that would be. That was our launching pad, like being able to build, whatever comp we got into, we would just make sure we went, especially as a co-ed team on Steel City, we legit only got into 1 comp every single year, my first 3 years. And, my freshman year was like some competition at the University of Indiana or Indiana University. I don't know if it's IU or UI, but then the second year we got into some random fusion Ross Bhangra comp in Los Angeles, and then we got into Warrior my junior year. These are the only I danced at 3 comps with Steel City for 3 years, right? But those 3 comps is what like built our team into the my senior year. We got into AKD, we got into a competent in Seattle called Run Up and Job, we got into Blowout. But because we applied everywhere and wherever we got in, we went. It helped build our team, right? But it all started and ended with the audition video, so.
Send that audition. You believe in that audition video, like Sid said, man, you got to send that thing in. You don't know.
Don't know. Yep, you never know what might happen. Any closing thoughts, Howie?
Don't send a shitty audition video.
Fact.
Like people think about it from a perspective. If you watch this, would you accept yourself? Is the biggest question that people fail to understand. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you're a really not well-known team and those people are pretty sure you know who you are, right? Like, your video has to be that flawless. It has to be that good for you to get into a comp. Doesn't matter if it's a tier 1 or a tier 3 comp. If you're not like a super, super well-known team, your video has to be that flawless. Because I came from that at one point with MBT when we were just like completely dead in the circuit and nobody knew who the hell we were. But we made a bomb audition video. We had to because there's no choice. That's the only way we'll get into a comp. That's your only ticket in.
100%. I think that's super huge. I think that a lot of people do also take a notion like, oh, like this is good enough. They'll see that we have potential and they'll send it in. You know, and there's mistakes and random things, and it's just like, that's your, as you said, like, would you accept yourself? And it's like you have to take yourself out of your own shoes and try to think of it from the competition organizer's perspective. It's like they're seeing tapes that are excellent of stage ready teams. If you don't look stage ready,
exactly.
You got to be on point. I think my closing remarks would be that, like, you have to make sure that your team looks stage ready, clean, on point. No one's hesitating. When it comes to the choreo hopefully is good. But we're making assumptions on that your choreo is your choreo. It's good. Formations are on point. Everything, just make sure it's really, really good. And as Akash said, don't use a shitty camera. Don't hide. Like if you use a 1080 camera or a really good camera, and then you show that you're flawless, it's a bonus, right? Sending something in 360p, trying to hide mistakes and stuff, just the competition organizer is just going to be like, what am I looking at? When everybody else is sending in HD videos. So let us know, everybody. Please, I know I'm definitely more than willing to help with anything. If you want to send a personal message, Howie, are you down to help people?
Definitely shoot me over your stuff. I'll just give you a very, very honest answer. Nothing personal. It's only for, your benefit.
100%. And it's one of the things that we promote through the podcast is, people that come on here are more than willing to help. Just reach out, say hello. Again, Howie is very blunt, but he's a very, very nice guy. Don't worry. He's super awesome. Very fun to hang out with. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Bhangra podcast. Howie, thank you very much for being on the podcast with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. And if you'd like to listen to more of us, you can check us out on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher. Please subscribe to us there. And if you really like to help us out, please drop a comment, a rating on iTunes to help boost us a little bit. Howie's here shaking his head saying, no, don't do it. But yeah, so thank you very much, Howie. I hope everybody that you learned a thing or two about some audition tapes. Hopefully we didn't repeat too much that you might have already heard, but if you did, you did. It is what it is. So enjoy. Everybody have a good night.